Are you designing an unforgettable moment for your couples as a wedding pro, like a DJ, a planner? Well, stay tuned for more.
Welcome to the Wedding Songs Podcast, featuring newly released songs you need to know and the tried and true classics. Get song ideas from the time guests arrive until the last dance of the reception. And now your host, Matt Campbell, founder of MyWeddingSongs.com.
Today's guest, I have the incomparable Bill Hermann. He is with Bill Hermann Entertainment. Imagine that. And the entertainment experience that is helping level up the wedding industry. He is located in Minneapolis, and I'm lucky to have him on the show today. Welcome to the show, Mr. Hermann.
Hey, Matt, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm excited that you're here, and I think we have a great topic that I think a lot of people will appreciate.
I'm excited to hear about it too.
All right, cool. Let's go ahead and have an icebreaker. I know you have so many great memories of past shows. Can you just share a unique wedding experience that you had in your career?
How long of a story do you want? Every event that I do, every wedding that I do, I design from the ground up. So it's designed to be completely unique. But from the perspective of weird stuff that happens at weddings, I can go back about, I don't know, is it 10 plus years to a wedding that I did in a place called Wrangell, Alaska. It's an island in the Aleutians between Seattle and Anchorage. And it's one of those islands where all of the salmon fishermen and the crabbers, and they all live. And this couple's dad saw me at a wedding probably 5 years before in Wisconsin and invited me to come up there. It was, all in all, it was an experience of just logistics, trying to be sure that they had the equipment necessary, which they had to piece together a bunch of weird things from the high school and the local polka band and a bunch of other things to be able to have the equipment necessary. And it was adequate, but nothing that any of us would probably take to an event. And anyway, great, fun, beautiful wedding sitting on the mountain in a very small church that held about 50 people, the oldest Catholic church in Alaska. And then they all walked down the hill because it's an island and it's a volcanic thing, to the community center, which is the only big building in town. It isn't a small bar with a dirt floor up the street. And same place they show all the first run movies that come to Wrangell. I get there, I'm waiting, I'm set up, I'm waiting for guests to arrive. As people arrive, I see them carrying stuff. They're not gifts, they're crock pots and dishes to pass, because this wedding was potluck. Bring along your own thing. So the whole wall was covered with tables and crock pots and power strips. And every table, all 30 tables with 10 people apiece, had 6 bottles of liquor in the center. And in the center of the circle of booze was a vase with a few flowers. These were full liter bottles of alcohol, from vodka to rum to whiskey, to mostly whiskey and vodka. So imagine how many bottles of booze you have there. 6 per table. 30 tables, do the math. So we get there, the great introductions, everything's going really well. We get to the story, everything that I do, the different stories that I do, and the narrating that I do goes really well. Everybody's having a great time, and party is banging. And come about 10:15, the couple comes up to me and says, "Okay, so wrap it up, we're all done." I'm like, wrap it up? All 300 people are still here. They're still banging the tables. We're out of alcohol. Again, do the math, killed every single bottle and every keg of beer they had. So they were done. They all wanted to get out of there and go up the street to this bar that literally has swinging doors like a saloon, and a step down of about 6 to 8 inches into a dirt floor, and bars that were made by 2x4s and plywood. But they're ready to go, and they wanted to have a big sparkler exit. And I told them months before, there are special sparklers you should get. They burn a certain way. They're longer. They're safer. Whatever you don't save all your sparklers from the 4th of July, which of course they ignored. So we make an announcement, we're going to do a thing, and the bridesmaids are at the door and they're handing out fistfuls. You can't almost wrap your fingers around how many you have in your hand. Fistfuls of these sparklers to every person that's leaving. And outside there's tiki torches, and there's a pathway between the back door to the street, which is where they're going to do this thing. So now I've got 300 people absolutely soaked in grain alcohol, they're going to play with fire. I've got the bride in the room ready to go. They're excited. They're pretty tipsy themselves. I've got the photographer. I'm like, you better get your shot because I'm going to tell them not to move, not to go, but go fast, right? And I'm standing next to the father of the bride. He's laughing at the situation. I'm laughing at the situation. I'm nervous about the situation. And I go, it's too bad we don't have a fire truck waiting. We might need that. He goes, oh, wait a second. So he picks up his phone and he makes a call. And so now I'm like, I have to get on a picnic table outside with no amplification to get everybody quiet and say, okay, now here's what we're going to do. I know we're all pretty tuned up. So I got to be real careful here. When I say go, you're all going to go to the tiki torches. You're going to light your sparklers. You're going to line this sidewalk about a foot behind each side. You're going to hold your sparklers up in the air, straight up like a torch, straight to the sky. Do not bend it left or right. Go straight up to the sky. And as soon as you're ready to go, we're going to scream for the bride and groom. They're going to come through. They're going to come through the sparkler exit. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be fun. You're going to love it. They're going to love it. Ready, set, go. And they all run for the torches, and they did it perfect. They ran back to the thing. They're now about 6 inches from sidewalk. They put their torches up into the sky. The sparklers are old, so they're spitting. They spit like sparks. So they're spitting sparks. So some of the sparks are coming straight down on them. So now what do? They angle them towards each other. So now there's this tunnel of fire between these people. And the bride and groom see it, and I didn't even say go. And they went, yay. So they run out. And they're running under a tunnel of fire. The bride, with more hairspray than any human being should have, a really beautiful veil that is pretty much made out of crepe paper, so there's another problem. And then the photographer, as they get in there, the photographer jumps into the middle and goes, stop, let me get a photo. Stop. And while this fire fight is happening between half of the brides and groom's friends back and forth with the family, they stand and they pose and they run through. And as they get to the very end, because they're not running very fast at this point, they're really enjoying this weird experience that's happening to them where they're hammered. A fire truck pulls up and the bride and groom see it. They cheer. They look at me and say, great idea. And they jump on the end. They grab it like firefighters and they hit the thing and they go away. Now I could not have planned something like that. And I would not have planned something like that. The fire truck part was great. But about a year later, when I talked to him again about the whole thing and we were laughing about the whole story, she goes, they did get me right. What do you mean? She goes, she showed me her veil and her dress. It had burned, like little holes of fire had hit her veil and her dress. And she had saved it so that she could tell the story herself. But if it would have gotten, there's nothing in the world that kept her veil from bursting into flames.
Sure. Except
divine providence. But it's just one of those things. And I've probably, from that wedding, I've gone back to Alaska 5 different times. They've never tried that again, thankfully. Yeah. But that was quite an experience. And I probably have another 30 stories, a lot like that, where, all the best laid plans you need to adjust as you go. So
I think it was 2 seconds from becoming a Michael Jackson moment. My hair is on fire. And then the other part is because they're the wrong sparklers, they could have had no sparkles. It could have all been done, and then you just miss the opportunity.
Yeah, I think they kept that from happening by giving everybody about 30 apiece. So there was just like one big fat sparkler at the end of their hands. Just so many things that could have gone wrong, and did actually. So
yeah, what we're talking about. Unforgettable moments. That's definitely an unforgettable moment. So before we go any further, can you just please introduce yourself to our listeners?
Yeah, my name is Bill Hermann. I've been an actor since I'm 5 years old. I've done theater and film and commercials and voiceover. I still do many of those things, but never been able to do it as a living until I started DJing. And playing music was a thing that I was pretty good at, and I got good at mixing back in the 80s. Back when, Technique 1200 was the thing, and working clubs from small towns to all the way out to Connecticut, to Detroit, and back here, when I moved back here after having gone to radio school back in the early 80s. And I've always been doing parties, and wasn't until I did an actual LLC for business until about, 32, 33 years ago, about the time I met my wife. And I sat down and figured out the things about DJing that I really liked and the things about DJing that I really loved. and the things about theater and acting and being a performer that I really loved. And the two things that came together were the storytelling and the narration and the idea of the MC actually moving an audience physically and emotionally throughout the day. So that's my business, really. People come looking for me because they're looking for a DJ, and they end up coming and finding me. I live in Prior Lake, Minnesota, which is a southern suburb of the Minneapolis and St. Paul area. My wife of 31 years and my two kids, 22 and 23, one of which still lives at the home. So if anybody has any suggestions on how to make that stop happening, send it along in the comments below of the podcast. I'd really like to hear about it. Yeah, I was a gypsy for a real long time. An actor's life, a performer's life, I just figured it was being a gypsy. And when I didn't like it anymore, when I didn't want to move every 6 months to 2 years every place I lived, I came back here because I had a great experience, and it wasn't where I grew up. I grew up in northern Michigan in a small town called Beulah, and then I graduated high school in a town called Munising. Both towns about 2,000 people. My parents and brothers and sisters still live in Michigan. My brother and sisters live down near Detroit, and my parents live up in a town called Traverse City, which is a beautiful place. If you've ever had a chance to go and visit there, it is. And if you've never been there, it's one of the hidden gems of the world that everybody should go see. It was my background. It was my playground. I didn't even know how cool it was when I was living as a kid. So I go back often.
How would you define experience design in the context of a wedding or an event?
Every live event can be just the ingredients of that event. Most people, let's say they're doing a wedding, they think they have to go get a venue, and they need to get a dress, and they need to get suits, they need to get decorations, they need to get food and liquor, and they need to get music. And then they take all of those things and throw them into a bowl, and they mix, and then they pour it out into a big room, and they hope that those things turn out. And one of the reasons why most people don't like going to weddings is that's how most people do them. And that because of that, a format has been created out of weddings. This happens and that happens, and this happens and that happens, and this is always this, and that is always that. The cocktails are always this, and maybe they'll pay for a few. But if they don't, that's a bummer. The dinner's always chicken. It might have a good sauce. Maybe they'll throw some beef in, but it's probably overcooked. It's always that. And the service is really slow, and maybe we'll get wine for dinner, and maybe we won't. And then there's the DJ, and the DJ's always this, and it's never really great, and we never see anything exciting. And it's a guy who sits at a table with some speakers and a laptop, and he pushes play. And if you want music, you can request, but they hardly listen to you anyway. And they play a bunch of music that none of us want to hear. They always do a first dance and a father-daughter dance and a mother-son dance. We got to sit through this really boring thing, and all we really want to do is get up and go to the bathroom or get our things or say goodbye to the bride. And then they're going to play music that we don't really want to hear around a bunch of people that we really feel uncomfortable around, in a suit and an outfit that we really don't want to be in. So why would we stay beyond, hey, congratulations, we're just going to go back to the bar, and then you sneak away to your favorite place, which is the way most people, even I, for years, went to weddings. That's what weddings were going to be. That's the wedding that we were expecting. That's the wedding we created when we arrived. The thing about it is that because of that, there is no new experience. Every experience, we live our lives in experiences. We live our whole life is told in stories, like the story I told at the beginning. That I could just tell you, I did a wedding in Alaska where they had a fire truck, right? But the story itself is what really has people experience it again and be able to tell a story. And the only reason they talk about a wedding that they've been to is usually because they saw something unique. Unique is very rare. Unique is not necessarily budget friendly either. The reason why the wedding business is the way it is because we've allowed the clientele to expect a certain thing, so we sell them the thing they expect. There's no reason to really talk you into why this DJ is different than another, because all DJs are pretty much the same. And unless you're DJing hanging from a chandelier, you're still a guy playing music. And we're taking a chance on whether or not you're going to be a good one or a bad one, especially when we've seen mostly bad ones. And there's nothing against the DJs. It's just that in the DJ profession, there's a very small percentage of people who are DJing that are really good at what they do and really take it seriously. Most of them are doing it for grins and giggles. They're doing it for chicks and beer. That's why I got into it. I wanted to be cool. I wanted to meet girls, and I was a nerd, and in a high school full of jocks, I wasn't. So how do you keep from getting beat up and have girls think you're cool? Then put yourself on stage. Maybe You learn an instrument, which I didn't have the discipline for, or you become a DJ. But when it comes to designing a day, the design can be a designed day, and the experience itself can be an experience for the couple only, can be experience for the parents only, or just for the families, or just for the DJ can be an experience. What I hope to do and what I hope to teach even with the workshops is to create a shared experience. A wedding should be a shared experience. The thing they talk about at a wedding that everybody talks about is the one thing that made them all go, oh, the groom cried a little bit. Okay, they didn't talk about anything else. The whole wedding was exactly what we expected, but the groom cried a little bit. So there's the shared experience. The 300 people went, oh my gosh, at the same time. What a DJ can do, or at least the guy with the microphone as the master of ceremonies as the host, he can create and take people through shared experience after shared experience, if they take the time to design how that will work. And it comes from the world of theater and books and movies, all those things. There's a reason why when you watch your favorite movie, everyone in the theater laughs at the same exact time. That's designed specifically to happen. From the way the story is told, to the way that everything is staged, to the way the performer performs what he does, to the timing, to all of that stuff is all designed into that one line. So that one line, everyone goes, oh my God, I remember that. That's so great. I thought, why couldn't I do that with an audience full of people when people in the theater have the same shared experiences when they see Shakespeare, or if they see a musical, if they see their favorite comedy? It's all designed to get everybody to laugh at the same time, cry at the same time, cheer at the same time. So they're all talking about those little moments through the story, and how how people are taken through the story helps those things to happen. It isn't just the guy. It's not, you can't just throw a comedian on stage without anything more as material, expect that he's going to be successful. But if he doesn't take into consideration all the other things that go into the theatrical presentation of what he does. And when I started to realize that weddings and theater were the same thing, really, unless I just wanted to let it be music, let it just be, I'm just one more thing, right? There's a cake in the room, but if you don't see the cake, not a big deal. I'm the cake guy. I made the cake. I put the cake in the room. It's fine. I got paid. I did a cake. If you don't get a thing out of the cake, it's not up to me. The cake is perfect. Exactly. Same thing was happening with DJs and caterers and dress people. What an MC can do is can give you a reason to talk about the cake as a guest, even if it's just a few moments, even if it's just the fact that it's over there and no one goes to accept you, because the MC and the storyteller, the host, can give you a reason why that can be a reason they go, oh, I had no idea that was so special. Oh, I get that. Just that in itself is a shared experience. And if the only shared experience everybody has at a wedding is the pothole in the driveway to get to the facility, that's the only thing they talk about, because everybody hit that pothole and everyone experienced it the same way. But as a designer of experiences, you've got this, especially weddings, you've got this beautiful format that you can play with. You can take it apart. You can move it around. You can just give each one of those moments purpose and reason to be able to make that thing become an experience of share. And you also need to be a better performer, be a better speaker, use a mic correctly, be able to know what to say and when to say it, know what not to say and when not to say it, and when exactly those things should happen. Over and above the machine of weddings. The machine of weddings is, here's catering, and it happens now, and it ends here, and it goes like this, and don't get in the way of it, right? When you become a designer of experience, all of a sudden, with their format, you can dance with it if you want, but then now you're starting to wonder if maybe if it was designed a little differently, what you could present for that end all of that thing that they want, which is the outcome of a shared experience. Maybe dessert needs to come out differently. Or maybe I need to do speeches while you're doing desserts, even though that's not the way I like to do it. It becomes, what do you know about what your skill base is and what you will allow. If I'm the performer and I'm the MC, there are certain things that I expect from my clientele and the vendors to be able to deliver. And most don't really understand it because and once again, they're still showing up with their product and dropping it off. Whereas I'm trying to make all those pieces come together so that one thing doesn't make the other thing bad, so that everyone flows through their meal. into their dessert, into their champagne toast, into their speeches, into a first dance. So there isn't big gaps of time where people in the room are going, "Is another, what's going on? I'm bored, right? It's taken me forever to get my meal." There's things that a good MC can do to make sure that people are not checking their watches during slow service. Okay, to be able to make that not feel like such a bad experience without pointing at the caterer and saying, "Oh, look at how bad they are." So understanding the idea of experience design means understanding that the person with the microphone or the person who's designed it, who's now going to present it, is the most he's responsible for every feeling and thought that the day goes. If it goes poorly, it's because you didn't take responsibility of making sure that the presentation of that didn't work out. And that's a lot. It's a lot of responsibility, but it's also very meaningful and powerful if you can help something as basic as a chicken dinner be something they talk about for years. And it's possible if it's just created in such a way, created and presented in such a way that they feel touched, moved, and inspired, which is the three words I use to motivate me, because I want people to be touched, moved, and inspired. And I, as an artist, wants to be touched, moved, and inspired in the work that I do. And if I can do one, I can have the other usually. So that's a really long answer for your question, isn't it? Sorry.
It actually takes me back to one of my favorite books right now is Unreasonable Hospitality.
Yes. Great book.
Yeah, it just talks about everybody's going out to dinner, talks about this restaurant, but there's so many different touch points that you can make a good experience, a great experience, or unique experience, making those connections. And that's what you're saying, is that just because they're having dinner or dinner is lagging doesn't mean that you can't step up to make that a unique experience. That's
for me, when I coach people or during the class, what are you willing to do?
Yeah.
What are you willing to do to make that better? If you're doing your mom's wedding, if in fact you have a wonderful relationship, your mom is the most important person in your life. Okay. What would you do beyond your job that you've designed? You've created, I'm a DJ. This is what I do. Now, what would you do beyond that to make sure your mom has the greatest day ever? Who would you collaborate with? What would you change? How would you present yourself differently? What would you suggest to make sure your mom has a perfect day? Not we'll see how it goes, but that you can guarantee it's going to be amazing.
Yep.
What would you do then? And most people, that just that responsibility is awesome and ominous. Mm-hmm. But that's in fact what I coach people to do, because that's what I do. I take on that I am responsible for whether or not everyone's in the room when the speeches begin. I am responsible for making sure that before I start speeches, that the head table has their cake and every champagne has been poured. If in fact that's what they're doing, right? I can't do that and have them overlap, because you don't really want them to be wondering where their champagne is when they're in the middle of their speech. And I could say, hey, they didn't do their job. I was right on time. It says right here, 10:15, I'm supposed to do this thing, but they were serving at 10:30. I did my thing. They didn't do their thing. It's not my fault. As opposed to, hey, it's my fault if I present and they're not ready. If I present and Dad's in the bathroom, it wasn't my fault. I told Dad I was going to do it, and then he left. I could blame it on Dad, or I take the responsibility on that. I should have made sure that I grabbed Dad and said, you're going to the bathroom. What are you doing? No, sit down, pee in your pants, or quick, go to the bathroom and I'll wait for you. But that's, again, a lot of planners and coordinators accuse me of trying to jump in their lane, which is not the case. It's just that I see myself as responsible or more responsible than any coordinator or planner, because I'm seeing the flow. They see a timeline. They see their watch, they see a timeline, they look up and they go. It's 10:15, go. Where I see things from above the room. I see everything that's happened before, everything that's going to happen afterwards, and I see the scene and how it's set now. What prop has not been brought to the stage yet? What actor is over in the corner? Who's not ready? And at times I've clashed with coordinators, but mostly because, why aren't you doing this? Dad's not here. You don't want me to start without Dad. We just need to stay on time. I said, not at the cost of Dad. I'm sure you'll understand.
That's a great transition into the next question that I definitely wanted to ask is, Wedding DJs and wedding pros, are you ready to elevate your expertise and keep the dance floor packed? Introducing the Wedding Music Letter, your weekly email written by me, Matthew Campbell, packed with exclusive insights and inspiration. Every Wednesday, I deliver curated playlists, deep dives into wedding and music industries, and practical tips on topics like science of creating a playlist, managing decibel levels, and crafting unforgettable parent dances. Stay informed, stay inspired. Subscribe to the Wedding Music Letter and bring the best music moments to life at every wedding. Sign up today at weddingmusicletter.com. The Wedding Music Letter, expert insights every Wednesday straight to your inbox at weddingmusicletter.com. Now back to the show. What's one mistake that you're seeing talented DJs and MCs make when trying to elevate their performance?
I suppose if you had to, there's hardly a way to say that without sounding accusatory, but probably the biggest mistake every performer, regardless of whether they're a DJ, a comedian, a singer, a band, is that the mistake they make is making it about themselves, making anything about themselves, making the way they look about themselves, making the way their system is and looks about themselves, making about where they are in the room about themselves, making about the things they say and the way they say them and the music they play and the mixing they do about themselves. And what I mean by that is it makes them feel cool, look cool, their definition of what they think a DJ should be or what they think the client wants, but really it's mostly about what they think it ought to be. I know that because that was me for a long time when I wasn't as good an actor as I am now. And I'm not saying I'm a great actor, but my biggest turning point within being a performer at all was realizing that I'm not on stage for me. It started out for me. I wanted to be cool, right? I wanted girls. I wanted free beer. I wanted a place to stand above everyone and play music. So I was about me, always about me. Requests, give me a break. Bother me by saying all those things you're not supposed to say to DJs, that whole list of things that DJs get mad about. We've written them down. We've put them up in our DJ booth to show people, don't say that to me. We tell them, don't get a phone and go like that to me, put it in my face. That's about them. They're not taking into perspective how the audience is experiencing what they're doing and how the audience is trying to communicate with them. Yeah, it can be annoying, but when it becomes annoying, it's because you're taking it personally and that becomes about you. Okay. If you get I've seen DJs who've got like the most beautiful, coolest looking equipment I've ever seen in my life, set up in a beautiful, unbelievable way, and cannot get anybody to dance because no one really cares that the DJ's up there looking cool. They're really waiting for the DJ to start presenting on behalf of the people in the room, not on behalf of how cool I can DJ and how well I can mix, or even the emceeing. It's like the way they present themselves on the mic is about, hey man, look at me. Aren't I great? Aren't I funny? Aren't I clever? I got a joke I do at every wedding. Okay, those are great. I've got lots of hip pocket jokes as well. But if they're not used on behalf of the people in the room and on behalf of moving the day forward, then it's just you up there doing a tap dance in a room full of people who don't like tap dancers. Right? They always tell people, the crowd wasn't on my side. It was a really tough crowd. It was this, it was that. If it was a really tough crowd, it's because you made it about you.
Yep.
There's no such thing as a tough crowd. A crowd is a crowd. It's just a crowd. Okay. They're going to experience the way you're doing, the way they experience the way you're doing, as long as it's not negative. And then who's defining negative? Usually the DJ. It wasn't, they hardly danced at all. So it was a bad party. That was about you, right? Because your definition of a great party is the people swinging from the chandeliers and pouring pitchers of beer on each other and going crazy and chanting your name and one more song, DJ Dave. They want that. Of course they do. We love being rock stars or pretending we are. I still do. But that is a mistake that a lot of DJs make. And the reason what happens is that is what people see, and that's what people talk about. Oh, you're not getting a DJ, are you? Oh, no. Why are they saying that? Not because we aren't really good at our jobs. It's because they've seen most people out there showing up at a private event for somebody they don't know and trying to be the star of the room. It's a small thing and a small switch, but it's also a large thing and a large switch because we weren't taught to pay attention. Pay attention to me. We're not taught to watch the room and to be wary of people moving away because you're too loud, or rolling their eyes because of a song, or not tapping their feet, or not smiling, or not singing along. We're not the song. Hey, once I play the song, it's a song's responsibility to work. I don't really agree with that. I can make a bad song work with the room, depending on how I give people a reason why it's important that the song's being played. And that comes from how you need to know your clients. But anyway, that's
And the order too, how you're prepping that song as well.
yeah,
When-
exactly.
when
Even
you're
with all
talk-
that, if it's about you,
Yeah.
then you're missing a stroke. If it's all about you, then you're hoping people will go along with what you think it will work.
Yep.
So I am about removing the I hope it works and going with I know that it will, at least on behalf of my clientele.
When you're working with couples, we know that it has to be all about them. How can we flip the switch as a DJ and a performer to make it a great wedding versus a good wedding?
Well, there's lots of ways, but first you should get to know your couple, and you should get to know your couple beyond sending them a form to fill out. I have a lot of in-person meetings, at least 2 or 3 with a couple beforehand. They do have paperwork and things they fill out, but then I take that paperwork out and I go through them one at a time with the people. I am with you. We're recording this on Zoom, so people can't see us doing this talk, but we're face to face. So what I say and how you react to it is important to me, because if I see a thing on a piece of paper and you've filled out and I explain it back to you and I see you cringe, I'm like, oh, okay, so I didn't understand what you meant there. What do you mean by that? What do you wrote that down because you like it, you don't like it? What is there a joke I'm missing? So I know. Because if I don't know, then I have to guess. If I work for a DJ company, and I did for years too, and they just send me, and the first time I meet the client is when they come in the door with my gear ready, warmed up to go, I have to guess. Now I'm using just kind of social cues, watching how they react and hoping that I'm guessing to see what kind of music is going to get people going. Because reading a room is kind of like that. It's you guess. I take an educated guess, and if nobody dances, you make another educated guess in a different direction until somebody dances, and then you try to feed on that, and then you make the thing work. Whereas if you really take the time to understand the client and who they're inviting and what's important and what they want to dance to, and if they care if their clients dance, if they care if their guests dance, if they care if their parents are happy, if they care if it's mostly your college friends, right? If they know all we're going to play is music from the 90s from when you went to college and everybody else gets ignored, is that going to be okay if they're ignored and they get up and go? It's those kind of meetings and conversations that I have to have for me to be able to say to them, I guarantee that every dollar you spend on me will be worth every penny. And if in fact, at the end of the day, for any reason, you're unhappy with anything that I've done, just tell me and you can keep your money. Now, my attorney hates that guarantee, but it also makes my clients feel safe to allow me to do the work that I need to do for them and give me some leeway, even though I don't take it without asking them. I don't go and, hey, it looks like your dad might be, he's got an Indian name. So I'm guessing he's going to want to hear some Bollywood. Instead, I'll ask, did dad grow up over there? Is her family going to be from Bollywood? Does dad like that kind of music? Is that music that he's expecting? Oh, God, no. He's into Zeppelin. Oh, okay, good. But in the day, when I see dad and his wife and his family from overseas, I'm going to say, it's going to be a Bollywood party. And more than likely it wouldn't work because I'm guessing. I want to take all the guesswork out. I'm not sure if I answered your question.
Yeah, you did. I love the examples because that's what we're talking about, creating the unforgettable moments. What other tips along those lines would you have for planners and DJs to create unforgettable moments during, let's say, cocktail hour, or even dinner? What tips would you have?
Again, it's knowing your client and paying attention to what they're trying to do, asking enough questions about what they want it to feel like and what they want it to do, and then being unafraid at planning meetings to suggest ideas and be okay with hearing, nah, I don't think so. I pitch more ideas they don't like than they do. Not as much anymore. But back when I first was doing this, it was like I'd throw a lot of ideas at the wall like they were wet spaghetti at a meeting, and hopefully one of them make them go, ooh. And sometimes I'll have an idea that I throw out like a joke, and they'll go, that one I like. If you can do that one. And then I'll know I'm backpedaling going, oh, I don't know how I'm going to make that work. Let me see what I can do about that, because I was just joking there. But it's also, I can give lots of tips to DJs and planners about this sort of thing, but it's also, again, it takes more time. It's not time effective, what I do. So if you have a big company, it's not really time effective to have your DJs meeting with your clients as often as I do, getting to know them as well as I do, because you got to pay those guys to do that. Or you have one person, then that one person has to communicate to the one DJ who doesn't really understand it and is working for a lesser amount of money, and half the time doesn't really care that much, right? He just wants to do the job and get his pay. And then those DJs who get into this for fun and for doing it for themselves say, hey, do they really want to have that kind of pressure? Planners have their companies that are already working and DJs that are already working, and the ones that are successful, it's one of those, if it ain't broke, don't fix it things. Right? Successful. I tell guys who come to my class, you're already successful, right? Why are you coming to do my thing? Because what I'm going to talk about is how you can, everybody that takes my class, they raise their prices at least 50%, if not double, after they're all done. But when you're sitting and talking to me about taking the class, I'm like, we're not going to talk about how good you are. Because you're already good. And I'm going to add a bunch of stuff to what I think is important to be able to make very happy people very happy, to be able to create an art form in what we do. And on every bit of time you put in your business is more money. And even if you're the only employee, I'm going to add another 10 to 15 to 20 hours to the amount of time you spend with your client, sometimes more than that. Do you want to go there? So it is a thing. The planners have been taught, a lot of planners have been taught, because here's the book on how to plan. Here's the questions you ask. Here's the order of things. Even in the CRMs that DJs use and planners use, it's like they just plug this stuff in and it'll spit out exactly what you're supposed to do. Okay, that makes it easier. Less time spent, same amount of money. That's what business is supposed to be. You do less work, you make more money. That's what we're supposed to be doing. I come at it from a craft, an artistic craft, which means as many rehearsals as necessary to be sure this is going to be perfect. As many meetings with the client, the writer, the producer, right? The actor, the bride and the groom, to be sure that I know that this is going to work the way it's supposed to work. A first dance that I did, a father-daughter dance I did on Friday with the bride and her dad, where we did some special editing ahead of time and some blocking and a prop that had to be in it within the speech and all that stuff. There were 2 or 3 or 4 different things that, if done wrong, could have tanked the idea and no one would have paid attention. So I wanted to be sure that I went over with the father of the bride exactly where he was going to stand, where he was going to say, when he was going to pause before he said the last thing, how he was going to reach out his hand for his daughter, because all of that stuff elevated the experience a little better and a little more. Missing one of those things would have people say, why did he do that weird thing? Or spending time with a couple, like a father of the bride, about trying to get him to make his speech less like it's staged, right? Less like he's nervous, to be sure that it becomes meaningful and purposeful, because he's worried about crying. And I can spend 5 minutes with a father of the bride and make sure he understands that if you start to cry, I need you to just do it. Because the moment you shed any tear or your voice breaks at all, the whole room will suck right into that second. That moment right there, that they all feel it exactly like you, because they love you and they feel like you feel. And for a moment, you let them in, and all of a sudden, you can dance to the Mickey Mouse Club, and it's a moment that they'll never forget. So DJs and planners, you have a business that works off the systems and procedures of the way the wedding world has formatted itself for years, and that's what you like. I'm okay. The problem I get from those people who call me and say, I want to make more money though, then you need to be different than the others. You need to show up different, which is the thing that I talk about with everybody. And it's right on my website, show up different. It's if every DJ, if you can't say that you're unique to other DJs, except to say that you have this kind of speaker as opposed to that, or this kind of microphone as opposed to that, or you wear this kind of outfit as opposed to this, or have this kind of booth or as opposed to that, then you're not different. You're not. You're cleaner, maybe, depending on who is defining the word clean. You are still the thing. So what is it that you're doing different that you're bringing to the table? Usually it's how much you care. It's usually your personality and they can sit across from me at a table and go, this guy's different because I've never seen this personality. I've never seen this level of commitment, this level of care. And to get there, you need to be able to choose your clients as much as they choose you. I've said no to people that just don't seem like they're into it. Oh, that's okay. You really are looking to you get the DJ that you know exists. That's not me. I can be that guy. I can show up and I can play music and I can not talk and I can show up while people are during cocktail hour and I can do all that stuff and I can play the music you give me in a row and you can charge me. I'll charge you 5 times as much as most DJs. But why would you? If you're not really look, everybody wants what I have to deliver. Everybody. Most people don't believe that it exists. And many people who hear about me go, yeah, but he's a DJ. I'll meet with him and I'll prove you wrong. He's just like every DJ. Okay. I'm okay with that. That's your experience of it. It's not personal for them to think I'm like every DJ that's out there or for them to think that you're like every DJ out there. It's not personal. Their experience is their information. They've seen a DJ, so now they know what a DJ is. That's because they know. They just do. They've seen it, they know. They've seen it twice, they really know. They've seen it 3 times. There's no reason in the world for me to think that's not what the DJs are all the time. We are in the business, so we know the subtleties of the differences and what's important and what's not. They don't care. They really don't care about what mic you use. They don't care about what kind of equipment or music. They don't even care about the music you play. They play polka music as long as they dance all night. We care. We don't care. They really don't. Even the ones that say, I love hip hop, and no one dances to hip hop. If that evening you go to polka and everybody dances, they're like, thank you for playing polka. So it's not any of that stuff. They just have been taught that's what to look for. As opposed to trying to tell them that they're wrong, show up in a new way. Ask questions that they wouldn't expect. Ask actual questions that you actually need to know to be able to take that different level of responsibility on. Or, again, this is not me saying that I'm better or this is the only way. This is a way that I've gone to be able to know that every event that I do is something new and different and involves me a little more. As an artist, I want to evolve. As an artist, I want to be able to say, I almost got it. Maybe the next one, I'll have this. I keep trying. For me, it's about the journey of trying to be a master at this. And there's no definition of mastery unless I write one. And then what's the point? Mastery, Meryl Streep, in a couple of interviews I've heard in the last year, they've asked the same question, at least in 2 of them. And they say, what do you think your best performance is? And when did you know that you were the greatest actress, the greatest actor of our generation? And she went, I don't really have a favorite. Each of them I care for in a different way. And when I think I'm good at this, I hope that I'm getting better at this. Literally is her answer. I hope that I'm getting better. I keep trying, which tells you that if you're an artist, a musician, a singer, a performer, a painter, your job is to work on trying to master this a little more as you go. It's the journey of discovery. It's the trying each time. It's the writing and performing like it's the first time you've ever done it before. It's not showing up, oh, I got this, I did that for years. It's easy to do. I got this. It's just another wedding. Oh, somebody throws a weird thing at me. I can figure it out. Oh, sure you can. But did you leave at the end going, oh my God, I could feel there was a shift in the room. There was a thing that happened with me in the audience. And then trying to find how that worked, because there's not a formula. The formula is putting yourself on the edge of everything, sharing your own self every time you open up the microphone in an authentic and vulnerable way, so that if something real happens in the room, that's laughter or tears or cheers or whatever, something that's real, not something that's forced, but something that's real, that you guided there because you allowed yourself to do that. And then the audience notices that you did. And because of it, they followed you. This is the actor's thing. This is on stage with Shakespeare, right? And as opposed to on stage with a microphone with the first dance about to play in front of a room full of people that ate chicken. It's no different. If you want to have beautiful, magical, meaningful moments that move people and touch people and inspire people, then you need to be open to allow that to happen for yourself. So it's not a journey. And you get to the place where you think you've made it and there's nothing else to learn. You either take another class or you find something else to do. Because the people that get burned out are the ones that are like, okay, I've done this same thing 150 times. I rock, yay for me. This is boring. How easy it can be. Yay for me. Or the crowd goes sideways and they blame the crowd or they blame the bridezilla or whatever, which I don't believe those things really exist. It's the performer's job to make sure those things aren't going to happen because you care for them.
I think both of us agree that two of the most important things is being different and making a connection, whether that's the couple or the guests that are there. Speaking of that, what inspired you to create the entertainment experience workshop, and how has it evolved since its launch?
Back in the day, around 2000, I was a part of an association called the Midwest Association of Professional DJs. I was, in fact, its founder and president for about 5 years, and we started doing conferences in Minnesota. And I was always the MC as the host and the president of the association. I just emceed the whole thing. And about 2 years in, they asked me to do a speech. And so I wrote something I called the entertainment experience, which was just my perspective on how theater and DJing are the same. How many things are exactly the same about them, and how the things you should be aware of in the room before you even speak, all the things that a theatrical experience and a theatrical thing. Anyway, I wrote this, I did it. People said it was okay. They liked it, but a lot of people just said, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. What do you mean? Staging? Transition? Storyline? What are you talking about? I thought that this is the way everybody did things. I really did. I thought that this is the way people thought about what we did. And I told somebody that, and I told another person that, and they said, well, you should probably could you teach us what you're talking about? I don't know. I have zero idea if I know how to do this. So the first entertainment experience was a day long, and it was pretty much just the theatrical principles that I talk about. There wasn't really a whole lot of get up in front of each other and do things. It was teaching people what it meant to understand staging in a room and why it can be effective and who it affects and why it affects people and what you should look for and why it's important to a storyline, to transitional pieces, to all the things that I talk about, including performance, which is mostly about how you prepare yourself as a performer, all the exercises that I would have you do if you were in a gymnasium to get your arms strong. These are the things that you would do every day for your voice and for your stature and for your diction and all the things that I do every day, regardless of whether I have a performance or not, so that I can keep my voice the way I want it to be, to sound as polished as I want to be without trying to sound polished like you did when you worked in radio and you try to sound like that guy, that just makes you want to turn the radio off, right? I learned early on, which I wasn't happy to learn, to really work on your voice and have it sound like an actual professional on the air when it didn't sound like Gary Owens. You had to actually practice and rehearse and do your vocal exercises and your diction exercises on every single day. So that when you started to talk like a regular person, all those things just showed up, right? So all those things, I talked about those things as well. And it was very successful. And they asked me to do it again, but I thought they wanted to have more performance stuff, so I added a second day. And that evolved into the entertainment experience 2-day called Power to Create. And I was only doing it once a year in November, always the week before Thanksgiving, not the week of, but the week before Thanksgiving on a Monday and Tuesday here in the Twin Cities. In that time, I've been invited to do this around the country. I've been invited to do this in Canada, which I've done it in Canada a couple times. I've been invited to do it in Australia. I've done it twice in Australia, 3 times in England, and here. And it was something that I didn't really expect. I didn't expect to do. I didn't like school. I became a DJ to dodge school. So the idea that I'm a teacher now is weird as heck. But I've had over 250 students, which we call ourselves alumni. We share a Facebook group. We share a time with each other at conferences when we go to conferences. They all have my personal telephone number. So if they have issues or questions or they want to dance an idea off of me or I want to dance something off of them, we have each other. In the last 2 years, I've put together a part 2 for people who have alumni that wanted more. And that is more of a scripting class. It's a focus on the importance of script writing and script writing as a preparation technique. It also means they get more stage time. And it helps them to find and use their narrative voice, not only in while they're performing, but in how they write. It's not about, see, once again, I was terrible in school, so I'm not teaching grammar or punctuation. I teach people how to write the way they talk, right? And which is what narrative voice is. Because many of us and a lot of DJs, they shoot from the hip and they don't see themselves as writers. So the 2 days are there to show the possibilities of how working on this kind of preparation can enhance confidence and delivery in front of clients and guests and polish the performance in more ways. One of the things I tell people at the end of a class is, now that you've taken the entertainment experience, you're not like super DJ now. You've just learned a new path to take. A great acting teacher that I had years ago said, if you're not in a show with a director working on your craft, you should be taking a class. If you're not taking a class, working on your craft with a teacher, you should be in a show. You should always, that's why doing my exercises every day and having a coach, a vocal coach on a regular basis is something that I do, something I think everybody should do. This is just another, okay, you never thought about scripting because somebody told you were a crappy writer? Okay, if you can talk, you can write. So what writing does is create a level of preparation that you don't have. You don't have to say, okay, let's just see what comes out and pull a ripcord and hit the audience, which many of us are very successful at. But I don't do that much anymore. At least I do. But if I tell a story about the couple, it's rehearsed and scripted, and they're staged in a certain way so that I can narrate it from the other side of the room. Or if I do introductions of the couple's wedding party and I say something more than their name and where they live. If I'm going to get into some story about each person, then that's rehearsed and that's checked with my client to be sure the client understands the things I'm going to say, that when I say this about their best man, Tom, that I'm really saying what's true about his Tom. And if I'm going to tell a joke, that they like the joke, because if I tell a joke about their friend, I don't get in trouble with the joke. They do, if they help me write it. So it's, once again, it's that level of work. That another thing. So the entertainment experience part 2 is new and people like. I didn't think I was going to do this for very long. It's just become a thing. And whether or not I want it to be or not.
I'll just throw out there too. I think you alluded to this. One of my mentors always says, I'm not an expert. I'm always learning. And even though that you are one of the knowledgeable figures in the DJ industry, you're still hiring that coach, still trying to improve your performance. You're taking those steps. It's not, okay, I've made it, in air quotes. You're trying to better your performance. So I think that's really important.
I can't
for everybody.
I have. Sometimes I wish I could take a break, but I have learned it's a love-hate thing. Never really thinking you're good enough most of the time, and always working on going towards the thing. But, and an important name or a name within the industry, I don't know. I'm just doing what I'm doing. And if people find that what I have to share is valuable, I think that's great. But I also know that my way of doing things isn't the end all and be all. There's easier ways to make money than to do things the way I do things. If money is what you're trying to make, I'll show you how to be able to charge a price point that you don't think you can make. I start at $5,000. Most of my client contracts average around 7,500 to more, depending on the client and what's their necessity, what's needed. But it's me. Okay, that's not me and my gear. I bring the gear because that's the tool necessary. But if I have to bring more than the toolbox that I regularly bring, which is my rig and 2 speakers, then I charge more for that. I don't bring lights. I don't bring that stuff. I'm not that great at lights. I know a lot more people are better at lights, for goodness sakes. So I'm selling this product of who I am and what I can be for what they do. And if they buy all the equipment and they get all the lights and they got a big guy that runs everything and I'm still just the guy with the microphone, my fee is my fee. Now, that is what I am hoping to instill in the people that work with me, because you don't need me to sell cool new stuff.
Yeah.
You just have to read the book and learn how to use the tech, which is in itself pretty cool if you can. I bring people to know how to do that stuff.
And it doesn't tell their story. That's where the money is.
But it can if used correctly. There's a reason why
Yeah.
great lighting techs get paid very well in the world of theater. It enhances and helps to tell the story. A great in a ballet without the lighting designer, you just have the guy doing the lady doing the dancing, which in itself is beautiful and artistic, but if you can enhance the fact that the scene is dark and brooding because the lighting does that sort of thing. So when I use lighting, it's in that vein, right? It's not just in decoration, even though I've got a 16 uplights, right? That people want me to put uplights at their wedding. It's another $2,000. Even if I've used just one, because I don't really want to set them up, right? Yeah. But if I do set them up, it's going to be in a dramatic fashion, and they're going to have a dramatic effect. And each time that the lights change, at some point during the room is going to go, oh my gosh, because the lighting changed a feeling in the room. The scene changed, something changed. If it's not going to do that, then it's just decoration. That's not really that exciting to me. Another reason why I have a guy that does lights, he's really good at it. I got a guy who does tech, he's really good at it. I know what I want the tech to do. I know what I want the lights to do. I know what I want the video to do. You can work out all the math on the tech of it all. I'm okay. I think that's amazing. I'm the writer. I'm the flighty fairy that's making wishes, and you're helping make them come true.
Yep. And I think that going off of that, as we're winding down, is what would you consider one of the common traits among those students that succeed today from your training?
Oh, it's most assuredly that shift of it's no longer about them, and every decision they make now, how is that going to affect the people that I express on their behalf as opposed to my own? It's that shift of what am I willing to do for a client as opposed to how cool am I going to look when I do the thing? There's a shift that happens. And when it happens, it's usually very profound. And those conversations now that we have, no longer about what time they show up or what kind of suit they wear. I think it's important. Those things are important too, right? I wear a certain kind of a tuxedo for no other reason than it makes me feel a certain way to be able to present in a certain way. There's a formality in what I wear and how I wear it and how clean it is and how pressed it is, how it fits me. That is part of the presentation of the theatrical piece that I'm doing. If I can get away with it without a full formal tuxedo with a tied bow tie that nobody knows it's a full tied bow tie, except for me. But for that, there are reasons why I do that. Yeah. And it is about how I express what I'm going to do and how seriously I take what I take on. It is that shift of, how much more is it going to be about them? Even my fee, which is more than most people, if not more than almost everybody else, it says a thing. Yeah. And it does a thing. It puts me on the button. There's a pressure in that doesn't allow me to phone it in. And if it starts feeling like that again, the first thing I'm going to have to do is go up again. Because the pressure of how much that they've invested in me financially and also emotionally, because the amount of time they had to spend with me, they had to do a lot. My clients have to do a lot of work. They don't just pay me a lot. They do a lot of paperwork, a lot. They got to meet with me a lot for me to be able to deliver on this. So half the time in my sales meetings, I tell them all the things here's why you wouldn't hire me. First of all, I'm expensive. Second of all, I'm needy. I'm gonna need this and this for you. I'm gonna need you to be in and need you to do the things that I need you to do and to say that and answer me truthfully and tell me everything, all the details I need. Stuff you wouldn't tell other people. I need to know. If you don't want to do that kind of stuff with me, there's other people. Not that I don't want to, it's just that I can't deliver.
Was there something that we missed today that you wanted to share?
Oh, not that I can think of. If people want to learn more about my workshop, they can reach out to me. 17th and 18th of November. If they go to the website, I think it's entertainment-experience.com. Or they can Google my name, you'll get my cell phone number. I'm not that well hidden. So you want to talk to me about this? Even if it's just, hey man, I think you're stupid. I'd rather hear from you. And even if you're thinking about taking the workshop, you can't just click go anyway. So you got to call me and we got to talk and I got to find out what you're really trying to get out of it. And because I don't want you to spend a lot of money on something that you're not going to get. And there's only 16 seats anyway. The November one usually is the one that's most popular. I've added a couple more during the year. I don't have the next year's posted yet, but I will soon. And they're usually here in the Twin Cities. And if they're not, people will know. I'm probably not going overseas anytime soon right now, but I know that people have wanted me to do some stuff in different corners of the country. Seattle, Florida, Arizona, they've all asked me to do a thing in different places. That'll depend on the logistics and things like that. But there's always at least one Minnesota workshop. And we do it at the Electro Voice headquarters, which is pretty cool. You get to see their marketing department, see all their new cuff stuff. If you're a speakerhead, you got them everywhere. And then if you've never been in an anechoic chamber, it's one of the only anechoic chambers in the world. And it is seriously one of the coolest things.
I can tell you, I've spoken to a lot of DJs over the years, and I know that your program comes very well. The approval rating is very high. They get a lot out of it, and definitely well worth it for the DJs that want to up their game and creating those different wedding moments. So that way you stand out from the crowd. Like you were saying, if you look at so many DJs websites and they all say the same thing, if you want to be that one that stands out, then definitely give Bill a call and check out the workshop.
I'm honored that you allowed me or asked me to be a part of it, and continued success. It's a great show.
Thank you. Thank you. We're just a squirrel trying to get a nut, as CNC Music Factory says. Thanks, Bill, for being on the show today. Everybody that's listening, stay tuned for next week for another episode of the Wedding Songs Podcast. Have a great day.
Thank you for listening to the Wedding Songs Podcast. Never miss a future episode. Subscribe today to our podcast. Follow us on Facebook at My Wedding Songs and send us a message about playlists you would like covered.